Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Back Lounge Podcast. My name is Tank. I'm your host. I'm a tour manager and guitar tech with over 16 years of experience in the touring music industry. And if you're new to this podcast, what we do is just have on guests, usually people in the music industry, and we just have conversations about whatever we want. Nothing is scripted in terms of me having pre-planned questions. We just start rolling and see where it takes us. And for today's episode, I have what I would consider a very unique guest, something that we don't normally have on this channel. We're going to have Jaxon Hibler. Now, if you're not familiar with Jaxon's name, you may be familiar with his face because Jaxon is one of the longtime reoccurring members of the React channel on YouTube. Yeah, that channel where they have kids react to and elders react to and all that stuff. I wanted to get him on here so we can discuss his experience doing the React media because it's a wildly popular YouTube channel. If for some reason you're not aware, it was originally founded by the Fine brothers and was known as, Fine Media for a long time. But the Fine brothers have sold the company. They're no longer associated with it, and it is now React Media with new producers and stuff like that. But they've kept on a lot of the cast members that do these videos that we've seen over the years. So I got to talk to Jaxon about his experience of starting this when he was 11 years old. He's 19 now, so he's been doing this for over 8 years. And he was a lot more open than I actually expected him to be. He really got into some of this stuff, man, from the audition process of getting on React Media. He even talked about how he does get paid for this stuff. And then we even got into some personal stuff like how he and other cast members deal with negativity on the internet. He talked about how he was bullied in school for being on this. He even tells a wild story about how he was kicked out of high school, which I wouldn't have expected from somebody like him. So hopefully you guys really enjoy this episode because it was a blast to just sit and talk with him about a lot of different stuff in life. And if you enjoy what you hear and you want to keep up with Jaxon, he's all over social media doing his own thing. His handle on just about everything is at JaxonHH. It's JaxonHH. He's got a YouTube channel, streams on Twitch, has a Instagram and TikTok that he's, pretty busy on. So give him a follow. Go check it out. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll have links to all of it below. But if you're listening on the other audio streaming sites, I always like to get that out there for you too. Before we start, I'll address a couple things. For those of you watching on YouTube, you've probably already been asking yourself this, but yes, I shaved my head, and yes, I am wearing an awesome bluey Hawaiian shirt right now. I shaved my head because I just wanted to shave my head. Every now and then, like every 5-6 years, I just get bored and want to regrow out my hair, so I just impulse buzzed it the other day. But I also just came home right now and sat down from a neighborhood barbecue because I realized I had to record these intros and outros to get this out for you, and this is what I was wearing. Full on dad mode, so I didn't want to change. So enjoy it because this is probably gonna be one of the only times you see me looking like this. And one more thing before we start. This podcast is available on a lot of different formats. A lot of you watch this on YouTube, which if you're not watching on YouTube, my channel is youtube.com/TankTheTech. But you can also listen on Spotify, Apple, Google, anywhere else you listen to podcasts. I know people love listening while they're in their cars or out doing things, so like to have it available there too. And if you would like to support this content in any way, the best way is on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/TankTheTech. Nothing too expensive, and the tiers on there allow you to get early access to videos and releases. There's a private Discord channel and some other cool stuff. So just know that that is not necessary at all. I appreciate it a ton, but more importantly, I just appreciate all of you guys watching this content. But I think that's going to be it for announcements and introductions and stuff like that. So let's just jump into this one. Well, welcome back, everybody. We are here for episode 27 of the Back Lounge Podcast. Today, I have a very special and kind of interesting guest for this channel, Jaxon Hibler, most known from the React channel. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I say most known from the React channel because I think that's how people will know you. But I want to talk more about other stuff you're doing because that's what I find so interesting about, watching the React channel with all you guys doing stuff. I was like, I wonder what a lot of these people actually do when they're not doing videos.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been doing it since I was 11, actually, and I'm 19 now. So,
I was going to
yeah.
ask that because you are one of the staples from that channel that I remember seeing, like, when they used to, like, younger kids reacting to stuff. I know, like, you and Lucas and a couple other people, like, have been on there for years. So that's crazy.
There's only a couple of us that have been on, like, that are the OGs.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird to say that I'm an OG because there was a time when I was watching it and I was like, oh my God, I want to be on that. And then I did get on the show.
Yeah.
So it's weird to call myself like an OG when it comes to the React channel. But seeing as how I've been on it for so long, it's the only thing I guess I could be called.
I mean, I would say you are because, I mean, you've been there through the transition of everything and going from Fine Brothers to React and all that stuff. But let's start at the beginning of that, because I told my wife I was doing this podcast with you today because she really likes the React channel and we watch a lot of stuff too. And she was like, I'd be really curious to know, like, how that works out. So let's touch on that. You said you used to watch the channel, you wanted to be on it. Like, what was the process of that, of being like picked as one of the kids that was going to be doing that stuff?
Yeah, so as a kid growing up on it, I remember watching like one of the first kids react videos, and it was like kids reacting Cat or something. And I loved it. And I was just like, I remember I was at my friend's house and he's like, they were obsessed with Cat, and then there were people watching it, and we were like, oh shoot, this is really cool and funny. And I was like 8 or something like that at my friend's house. And I remember just not thinking too much of it, like, later on. And then one of my classmates in 6th grade got on the show. His name is Tyler. And everyone in the class was like, huh, huh!
Yeah,
and they were like freaking out. Absolutely, just, they did not know what to do. And so I talked to him about it. And so he's like, yeah, they had a casting call on Instagram. And then I got on the show. And it's like, okay. So I go to Instagram and they had this like, new kids wanted, ages 8 to 10 show up. And I was 11 at the time, and I was like, dang, I really want to be on this. Let me see what I could do. And so I asked my mom if I can get on. She's like, what the hell is this? This is stupid. YouTube. What the hell? And I'm like, Mom, please, please, please. My friend's on it. I can do it. And she's like, huh? I was like begging my mom to do it, and she's like, do it yourself. I mean, I'll help you out with it.
Quick frame of reference here. So you were 11 at the time.
Yeah.
How old would your mom have been at the time? Probably about my age.
Let me see. So she was born in 72.
Okay, so let's see, 9 years ago, 72 to. Okay, I'm not good at that quick math on stage, but she'd be a little older than me, which is that was a point I was trying to make. Is funny, is like, I'm starting to feel old now. So it's like when I hear stories about stuff like that, I'm like, when people are talking about when they're kids, I'm like, oh, their parents could have been like how old I am now.
I will say my parents were, I don't want to say too old. They were a little bit older. They're not they weren't like grandparents' age when they had me.
Yeah.
You know, I have a couple of friends that are like that, but they weren't in their 30s when they had me.
Yeah.
So I was telling my mom, I really want this. She's like, just do it yourself. I'll just send it through my email, whatever. And so, or at least I was telling her what to say on the email.
Yeah.
I was telling her, just they want 10-year-olds, but like, just say I just turned 11, and then and all this stuff. And they're like, great. They sent back a questionnaire. It was like a really long questionnaire, being like, what are your likes? What are your dislikes? Blah, blah, blah. And then send it in. They sent me back another super long questionnaire. Fill that out, send it back. And then they actually had me do an in-person audition. And for that in-person audition, they sat me in a room at the studio, and they just did like a test run. Just be like, okay, watch this video, talk. That's it. That was the long and short of it. There was nothing to it. And as a very hyper 11-year-old, and I stuck on the show, and I've never really been apart from it, I guess. Like, they at the time they would film like once a month, maybe once every 2 months. Nowadays I'm in there like once a week. But
yeah, I noticed like that. I mean, they're cranking out videos nonstop. I was actually going to get into that. Like, how does that eat into your schedule, or like what's your process? Is it like an 8-hour, 10-hour day that you're usually blocking off?
It's like it's one full day. I'd say it's about like 6 hours, not even like
Okay.
maybe like I'd say between 4 to 6 hours. It's
Okay.
not too bad. They give you they ask what your schedule is like. It's either Thursdays or Fridays, and they're like, do you want to come in mornings, later in the like noon on, like how do you want to do this? So I have the worst sleep schedule, so I do it for like 12
I
on.
can relate.
Yeah, I'm going to bed at like 3 a.m. like every night now,
Yeah.
which is really bad. But I they yeah, Thursdays or Fridays, whatever works best. And they film like 3, 4 episodes and then you're
Oh,
out.
okay.
It's like nothing too bad. And it's also a lot of fun. Like it's seeing as how like that's like for right now, that's like my main job, I
Yeah.
guess. Um it's just a lot of fun once a week. Like it's solid. I love it. It's a lot of fun to also just hang out with everyone there. Everyone there is super nice. Like the producers, the other reactors that are on the show, just
Mm-hmm.
so much fun.
So when you do those videos, you guys are always like paired up with other people and stuff. Do you have a say in who you want to pair up with for a certain video, or do they just kind of know your personalities to this point where they think that's who's going to work best for a certain video?
They know our personalities best. They
Yeah.
decide. We don't get to pick only because everyone's schedule is different.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to work around who's coming in when,
Good
all that
point.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But either way, I get along with pretty much everyone there. I can't really pinpoint a person that I don't get along with.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, just everyone there is just so much fun. I'm surprised that I get along with everyone so well. There's usually like maybe 1 or 2 people that I didn't. Like
Yeah.
way back when I didn't get along with a couple people, but that was only when you were filming like solo videos and you only see them in the lobby. So
Yeah.
but now I get along with everyone just great, and the producers there are also just really really nice. It's crazy. Like I'll just have like one-on-one conversations with like basically the CEO. She's like the nicest person ever. Her name's Nicole. She's just the best.
That's awesome.
Mm.
Like there was a couple things I wanted to feed into, and the first one is something I've been very curious about. And I personally don't know how much you can say about this, but you referred to this as a job, like your main job. Are you getting paid directly by them, or are you like, is it funneling into other social media things that you're earning income that way? Is it more of an exposure thing, or are you actually making money from filming with them?
I make money from working with them. I
Cool.
can't say how much,
No,
but I
no, I
am.
wouldn't ask.
Yeah, but I do make money with them. It's
Awesome.
and growing up, since I was under 18, it would go into a Coogan account, which I couldn't touch till I'm 18.
Yeah.
And all that, like over all the years, what I can say is that I'm saving up for a down payment on a house.
Nice. That's
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's
that's the
super
main
cool.
goal right now.
Yeah. I mean, well, you, I'm pretty sure you live in Los Angeles, right? A down payment on a house is not cheap.
God, no. Oh my gosh. I mean, I love LA,
Yeah.
but I don't love LA. It's
Have you lived in LA your whole life?
Yeah, born and raised.
Nice. That's wild.
Not left. I haven't had to worry about the dream moving out to LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, like no, I would not say to move out here unless you already live here. Like
So it's funny you say the dream to move to LA, because I grew up in Chicago.
mhm.
And that was every kid in like my middle school and high school. It's like, after graduation, I'm saving up and I'm moving to Cali, man. And then they go out there for 6 months and they're like, that's too
I'm broke.
expensive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I personally, I don't know if I could live in LA. I love visiting. I have a lot of friends out there, and I love visiting on tour, and I love having days off on tour there. But I don't know if I could personally ever live there. One, expensive, like you said. Like I live in Nashville now, and it's like, compared to other major cities, it's so affordable.
Oh, absolutely. I have a half sister that lives in Chattanooga.
Oh, okay, great city.
Mm.
Yeah, and but when my wife and I were looking at new houses recently, because we did just recently move, we were thinking about the LA area ish, like we have a lot of friends that are in like Anaheim and Orange County, and I have a friend that lives in Hermosa, and we were looking at all the different areas around there, and I'm just like, dude, I don't know how people survive and live out there. I really don't.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Like, I mean, those are the major city areas.
Yeah.
I live in one of the more suburban areas. It's so I'm about 45 minutes out to like downtown.
Okay.
And where I'm at, it's a pretty nice area. Like I will say the city area, the downtown area of LA, awful. I would not touch it with a 10-foot pole if I didn't have to.
Yeah.
Like that, it's just sketchy, and it's also expensive. There's no parking. It's tight. I don't. It sucks that I kind of work in the media world because everything is out there. Yeah. Like I have acting classes in Santa Monica that are like just that area alone. Everything is just too tight, too like there's too many people as well. It's like
it's like every major city right now. Like
absolutely.
And it's so funny because like, you know, I've lived in Nashville for so long, and when I meet people and I tell them from Nashville, they're like, "Oh, so you go like downtown and go to Broadway and stuff all the time, right?" And I was like, "No,
absolutely
like,
not."
Same with people that live in Vegas. Nobody that lives in Vegas is going to the Strip regularly, you know?
Exactly.
So yeah, I can relate there, man. I mean, but you know, LA is a fun city, but yeah, I can imagine it's got to be like crazy and expensive and stressful and stuff like that. And you say you're 45 minutes out. I assume that's without traffic.
I mean, that's like half with, half without, I think. That's like, no matter what, there's always a little bit of traffic.
Oh yeah.
Like the only time there's really not traffic is like, what, like 11 o'clock at night when you're just like on your way home from everything. So, I nowadays I'm going out to the city a lot more because a lot of my friends are there. I'm now getting more into acting specifically. So I have to go out there a lot more. But it's like, I feel like LA as a city compared to like New York or something is just so much more inefficient than New York. New York is like a city done right. Well, quote, but like
I would
compared
agree with
to
that.
other metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
Like, but LA is just super inefficient. That's why I don't think anyone should live here. If you're not already living here, you know?
It's funny, the difference between New York and LA too is one of the things that I actually appreciate about New York is I love how direct, which can also translate to sometimes being rude, like how people can be like on the street. Like people always have a place to be. They know where they're going. They're like tunnel vision and stuff. And it's like, you can't be lackadaisical in New York when you're walking around. Like tourists just get steamrolled there.
Yeah.
And it's a different vibe in LA. It's a lot more loose and a lot more laid back than a city like New York for the most part. So I'd be more tailored for a city like New York than LA, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. I was there for about like 2.5 days. I would like first day I was like, where do I go? What is everything? And the next day I'm like, first you go down to First Street, make a left, go down to 51st, and then you're at your place where you want to be. And I was just in the zone there. And my dad got called a cocksucker. It was great. You know?
Oh, I've probably been called worse in New York at some point. Like
it was so funny. Yeah, this guy was trying to sell us comedy club tickets, and my dad was like, "Oh, comedy club, that sounds cool." My dad didn't know any of the comics, and my dad was like trying to politely be like, we're good." And then he thought we were stringing the guy along for like 5 minutes. So he's like, "You know what you just did? Yeah, you're a fucking cocksucker. You know what you just did to me?" As we're walking away, it was the funniest thing. So.
Dude, I mean, New York, I don't know if you experienced this, but one of the first times I was ever in New York on tour, I just gotten off like the train. We came in from New Jersey because if you're going to Manhattan on tour a lot, you can't bring the buses and the semi trucks into the island. Like you have to park in New Jersey and then go in. So we took the train in, and right when I get off the train, some guy comes up to me and just like hands me like a CD. And this was like 12 years ago. And he's like, yo, man, this is my CD. Check it out. I was like, oh, cool. And I'm used to that because growing up in Chicago, that's how we hustled our local bands and stuff. But we just gave out demos. So this guy like forces this CD into my hand, and he's like, yo, man, check out my shit. I was like, all right, cool. And he goes, yo, I'm gonna need about $10 for that. And I was like,
Yeah,
no.
exactly.
I was
we have
like,
that in LA.
I was like, oh, sorry, dude, I don't have $10 on me. I tried to give it back. He goes, no, you already took it. You owe me $10. And I'm just like, I think I ended up setting it on the ground, like at his feet, and was like, sorry, bro. Like, yeah, they hustle out there. And the thing is that a lot of tourists that don't know, a lot of tourists will fall into that stuff. And I mean, it's a game out there, dude.
Yeah, like at the Walk of Fame in LA.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we there's people in costumes that'll hound you for pictures. There'll be the CD people. I remember I fell for that when I was like 15.
Yeah.
I was with a group of people, and this giant guy was like, "Hey, yo, here's my CD. Hey, what's your name?" Writes my name on the CD.
Yes.
So now he can't take it back.
That's a
and
move.
Then he's like, we appreciate donations. I mean, like, we really appreciate donations.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay. I pull out my wallet. I should not have pulled it out in front of him because I had like, a couple bills in there.
Yeah.
And I open it up. He's like, I see that 20 in there.
Yeah.
and then I'm like, no. And I give him like a 5. And I was like,
yeah. Nowadays it's easy though. Nowadays it's easy because nobody has cash. You can just be like, sorry, dude, I don't have cash on me. And then you'll probably run into the one person that has like a Square reader on him. It's like, oh, I'll take a card.
They have it on. Yeah.
Yes. Oh man, dude, I've spent so much time right up there because, they film Kimmel right there on the Walk of Fame. And I've done the Jimmy Kimmel show with musical guests like so many times. We stayed at a hotel right there. One of my favorite times there, we saw 2 guys dressed as Spider-Man fist fighting each other because they were like infringing on each other's like space.
They were in each other's territory.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That seems about right.
I mean, those cities, LA or New York, love them or hate them. There's always interesting stuff going on. I mean, the people
for better
watching.
Or for worse.
Oh, dude, the people watching is just absolutely fantastic. Dude.
My gosh.
Oh man.
Yeah, like LA is just it's cringy. Like compared to New York. New York is like everyone's rude, but everyone has a purpose.
Yeah.
But LA is very soft and very, how do you describe it? It's very
fake.
Passive aggressive, fake. Yeah. That's and everyone wants to be a content creator. Yeah. Everybody wants to be a content creator. Dude,
that's where we're going right now. I mean, I started content creation during the pandemic. I just couldn't tour. I would, if COVID never happened, I would never be doing any of the stuff I'm doing right now because YouTube and Twitch for me was just something to do when we couldn't do anything else. And then it did like slowly turn into like a full-time job, and I'm still touring here and there every now and then, but it is so easy nowadays with how social media and technology has gone for like, and you're getting young kids that are millionaires by the time they're 18 because their TikTok explodes or their YouTube explodes. And, talking to other content creators in this realm, I've realized like, some of the different ways you can make money, like, doing music on YouTube or doing talks about music and stuff like that. It's like playing on hard mode, dude. Like you get into your makeup tutorials and financial advice and video game stuff. I mean, advertisers are paying out the ass for that kind of stuff for ads. And like, again, I'm not really hip on TikTok. I do feel like it's one of those things I might be a little too old for, even though I'm all over social media.
Honestly, that's fair.
I see some of these videos and I'm just like, damn, like it's insane.
Like I have a TikTok. I post on it like maybe once a month, if even that.
Yeah.
And it's like a 50-50 chance it'll go viral for no reason.
Yeah.
Like the last video I posted, I was playing guitar and I was just messing around. I'm like, wait a second. Just like, cause I was messing up the whole time and I made it into a joke and it 400,000 views. No reason. I'm like,
dude, my average TikTok video is probably like 4,000 or 5,000 views maybe. And recently I had my first like actual like viral moment on TikTok where Eurovision had just ended and I just made like a little 30-second rant about the voting system in it. It had like 1 million views in like 24 hours. And I was like, that's what did it? Like, I feel like sometimes online, the more I think about content and the more I try to make it something that'll go viral, it doesn't happen. And then it's always the really dumb stuff that I'm not even thinking about. I'm just like, I'm going to make content just to make content. That's the stuff that takes off.
Yeah, that's the worst part about it. I will spend like there was a time where I was really obsessed with wanting to make really good videos on like YouTube and all that kind of stuff, but I never knew what to make. So the one thing that some of the stuff that I'm really kind of obsessed with is like my setup, my like seeing people set up videos and wanting to do my own. I remember making one and I spent so much time on it, and then uh or maybe even my keyboard. Like I super obsessed with like I built my own keyboard and all this kind of stuff. Wanted to show
Oh,
it off,
nice.
show off the process. Spending maybe like a week on a video and then expecting it to do really well, and then it absolutely tanks.
Yep.
And it's just yeah,
It's how it goes, dude. Like even on my YouTube, it's like I try and do these videos where I'm talking about the behind the scenes of the music industry, and I do a lot of research and I put up a lot of information and I'm talking about stuff, and it's like, yeah, that video will do kind of good. And then recently I did a video about a guy at a show that farted so loud at the concert that everybody in the room heard it over the music. That video does like 200,000 views in like a week. And I'm just like, I mean, I guess we're just going to do fart content now because that's what people are watching. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's always the stupid shit. It's always the stupid shit that gets the views.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, or at least the kind of going into how you discovered me, the Slipknot video.
Yeah.
Stuff that gets people riled up.
Dude,
you know?
and that's what I wanted to talk to you about too, because like, I've been watching the React stuff for a while, like way before I was a content creator. And I find it funny because in the last few years, reactions on YouTube have become a huge trend. Like more specifically music reactions, people checking out music videos to stuff they've never heard and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the React channel has basically been doing this for years. It's just they have multiple people that they're filming with, and now it's, people can just sit in their house and do it. So I always joke, like when people are like, who do you think is like the OG React channel? I was like, well, if you're talking about YouTube, it's pretty much the React channel. If you're talking in general, it's probably Beavis and Butthead. But let's go back to the Slipknot video and the reactions, because I'm not going to lie. I did that video where I reacted to you guys reacting to Slipknot because I actually saw a couple other content creators do it and it got mad views. And I was like, why not? I mean, let's try it, And it did. It took off. And then I started doing a couple more. And I will admit that first Slipknot video, I kind of was coming at it in the approach where like, yeah, let's make fun of these kids. Because they're dumb and they don't know Slipknot, whatever.
And that's fair. That's completely fair, because that's why people watch our videos sometimes, is that people are, I mean, they'll get people for the videos that don't necessarily listen to the music to try to first educate them, but also like, just have them listen to it, just give their reactions.
Yeah, they want Lucas sitting there saying, this isn't music.
Exactly. Yeah, they want, yes, exactly.
So my approach to this, I genuinely 100%, I love watching the Gen Z React videos now, because for me, it went from that Slipknot video where it's like, I'm going to roast these kids just because it's funny, to I'm genuinely curious to watch your guys' discovery of music. So like, I haven't released it yet while we're filming this, but I just did one on the hip hop, the 90s hip hop that you guys did. And I loved 90s hip hop. Like, people may not know that because I'm a metalhead, but like, dude, I knew every song in that. And I actually took a lot of points that you guys were talking about and discussed more. And then I talked about the history of some of these groups. So I kind of turned it more into like my own video than just the person sitting there watching you guys react and laughing and making fun and stuff. And one of the things, though, going back to that Slipknot video that I noticed, and it's something I wanted to talk to you about because I was really curious. I don't remove comments from my Facebook page, or sorry, my YouTube page, like my channel comments on videos. Because once you start doing that, it's kind of a slippery slope and whatever. But on that video, my video watching you guys watching Slipknot, I blocked and deleted and hid users from my channel more on that one video than anything else ever. Because when people are making fun of me, I'm fine with it because it's my channel, whatever, I can take it. But that video got so many aggressive, hateful comments of, people ripping on the kids in the video for being gay. And that's putting it politely. Like, I couldn't believe it on my video. So I go look at your guys' videos and I see the same thing, and it's pretty depressing. Like, we know how the internet is. We know how trolly people can get, but with you and maybe some of the other people that you're close to on the React channel, how do you guys deal with that kind of stuff? Like, how do you mentally handle, like, this video goes out and then all the internet trolls just start saying aggressive, hateful stuff? Like, do you just ignore it, or is that something that you've just learned to deal with?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
Being on the channel for so long, uh it's hard. I don't know. Like, sometimes, at least with the videos I'm in, sometimes I hate how many nice comments I get about me,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of weird to say, but like, so a lot of times when I'm in a video and I like, oh, and I can name, oh, this band, this kind of music, a lot of people are like, he knows his stuff. But then all the comments will be about, hey, he knows his stuff. And then I feel bad for the other people being like, I'm getting all this attention when there are other people in the video that are doing just as fine, you know?
Yeah.
And I always hate that. But when it comes to hateful comments,
Yeah.
like, it's always that one that gets you. It's never like the however many nice comments that
Yep.
like, oh, you brush it off. It's always the super hateful one comment.
Mm-hmm.
And growing up, I mean, I wouldn't take it as bad because there's only so much you can do. Like, you can't really be like, oh, I hate everything now because of this one comment. But I mean, I can only imagine for maybe like Lucas or for some of the other people that are on the channel that get really hateful comments,
Mm-hmm.
how they take it, because there's only so much you can take after a while, you
For
know?
sure.
And also being a live streamer and getting some really awful people. I've gotten my address pulled up before. There was a forum where I was being sexualized, like by older guys. I think and that I found out more recently, and they've been doing it since before I was 18. So there was that. Bunch of people in my Instagram DMs saying some really hurtful shit. I feel like that's the worst of it. When I get really hurtful shit in my Instagram DMs, because it's them specifically going to your page and saying some of the most vile shit imaginable.
Yeah,
Like,
because it's like people on, like, I always say, you touched on a lot of things that I brought up in other conversations with people too. Like, for some reason, as human beings, we could get 99 compliments, and for some reason that one negative thing is the thing that weighs on us the most. I think that's just how we're wired. Like, and at the end of the day, you can't please everybody, and if you are, you're probably not doing something right anyways. You know what I mean? Like, but that's the thing about the internet. The internet is a great place, but it's also a horrible place, because some of these people, I don't know whether it's they're bored or they don't have anything better to do or what it is, but they can't just watch a YouTube video and dislike the person on it and then maybe leave a stupid comment on the YouTube. They go out of their way. They go find the Instagrams. They go find the live streams. They go find whatever. And it's like they've made it their mission to just go after the one person online that they don't like. And I've seen people that I actually know do this, like, where, God, they watch like an influencer on Instagram and they decide they don't like them, and then they make that their whole personality, where all they do is try and roast this person. And I'm like, why? Like, you don't even know this person. And the sad thing is that these comments that we see online, 99% of those hate comments, a person would never say that if you were in the room, ever.
exactly.
Like, not because they might be afraid of you or anything like that, but it's just
that's just not them.
Society, you don't do that. Yeah.
And funny thing, so oh shit, forgot what I was gonna say. Never mind, continue.
No, it's fine.
I had it too. Oh, I remembered. So it's growing up, it was always the music videos that I was in that would get the most hate comments. Because
really?
Yeah, well, you'll see why in a second, because it was, as a kid, you know, I mean, they would give like, oh, do kids know Queen? Do kids know AC/DC? You know, that's fine. It's the boy band. It is always the boy band. So I remember at the time I hated One Direction. Absolutely hated them. And I made it clear in the video, you know, and teenage girls always being like, "You're the worst person I've ever met in my life. I have a knife and I'm coming to your house." That like
Jeez.
stuff like that. I got death
Dude.
threats from that stuff. It was and that was the first one. And the second one was a boy band called Why Don't We? And yeah,
Never
exactly. And it was, imagine One Direction if they were younger and they weren't good at music. So and like pushed out by the industry to, you know, to get teenage girls. That was their fans were diehard. I still get stuff to this day about them, which is hilarious. Like I remember, and I would engage with these people, which is the best part. I would get DMs on Instagram and they'd be like, how dare you say that about my favorite boy band? How dare you are vile. You are the worst. And I'd be like, lol. And I DM it back to them. And then and I'd wait for them to say some dumb stuff again. I'd be like, you good? It was just waiting for them and calling them out because I thought it was the funniest thing.
Yeah. Do you still do that, or do you just disengage at this point?
Oh, I disengage.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I had to learn that too. Like when I first started doing YouTube, for some reason, if somebody would leave me a shitty comment, I'd be like, yeah, I'll fire back and blah, blah, blah. And now it's like, I realize that that's what they're looking for. When people are trying to do that, they're waiting for you to respond. So if you just completely ignore, don't even acknowledge the fact that they've said anything, it's like, whatever. And I will say, on my YouTube and Twitch, I've built a fantastic community that I'm very happy with and very proud of. There have been a handful of videos I've done, though, more when they're specific. Like, going to what you were saying, bands have, like, there are certain bands and groups that have such diehard fan bases where it's in any genre, too. Like, because I'm a big metalhead and I see it in metal a lot. Like, there are certain bands that if you say you don't even like them, their fan base is just on alert, dude. They go nuts.
Absolutely.
So I've had some videos before where I've talked about a topic of a band and I've just expressed an opinion or something like that, and then the backlash is insane. I've only had one video that like literally sent me into like a depressive spiral where I got off the internet for like 3 days, and I'm like, I don't think, dude, it's like, I can't imagine the content creators that just get people coming after them like this all the time. I wouldn't be able to handle it. I'd snap.
Yeah.
Like, so that's why I always think, like, especially with kids in any kind of entertainment industry, like I still don't know how I feel about it, especially in music. Like with you guys, that's one thing because you're not really out in public. I mean, you are, but it's on the internet. Like nobody can be right there and do anything.
Yeah.
But like kids in the music industry, man, drives me nuts. Like I see, I don't know if you're familiar with Mason Ramsey, like the yodeling Walmart kid.
Yes.
From like,
yeah.
So I worked in country for about 6 years before the pandemic. And when he got popular from those viral videos, he got signed immediately. He got management immediately. And I saw that for what it was. The second it happened, I was like, he's going to be a cash cow for about a year. And then they're just going to get rid of him. Yeah. And one of the most depressing things I ever saw was one year we did a performance at the ACM Awards in Austin, the Academy of Country Music. Big live televised event at the arena. And he was supposed to perform. And he was also supposed to like introduce an award or something like that. And during taping rehearsals, he was having a hard time reading his lines from the teleprompter and stuff like that. And he kept messing up. The producers at the show are screaming at this kid. His managers on the side of the stage are like, dude, get it together. Blah, you know, like all these adults are yelling at like this 12-year-old kid because they are putting him at the same level of expectancy of professionalism as they would another adult. This kid was in tears, dude, trying to do his parts.
Disgusting.
And I'm like, anytime I see kids in the industry like that, I'm like, it kind of drives me nuts because I'm like, they got to have people around him or around them to genuinely care about them to make sure everything's good. And a lot of the times, like I swear I saw their managers were on the side of the stage when this was happening. And when he finally performed and got everything down, I saw one of them just go like this. I'm like, for people listening on Spotify or whatever, I'm doing the hand gesture for like money. And I'm just like, that's what this is.
Shit.
And then a band member for a huge country act. I won't name who it is because I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he was complaining backstage one day about Mason. and how he acts on the tour bus. He's like, yeah, he's like super hyper all the time, and he's just yelling and like playing video games and throwing stuff around. I'm like, he's fucking
expect?
12.
Yeah.
What do you you're complaining about a kid being a kid.
Yeah.
Like,
Or
so
they have not been through enough to realize, for like you said, how the industry is like, like, let alone act on a tour bus.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh.
I mean, there are adults that don't know how to act on a tour bus. Like, I mean, I don't know, man. Anytime I see kids in this industry, like that girl Harper right now, that like she got super big online because she was doing like harsh vocal covers of bands. I think she's like 12. And like Rise Records is putting stuff out with her, and she's doing collabs with other bands. And I just really, I haven't seen anything weird with that situation, but I just see stuff like that. And I'm like, I hope she has the right people around her that are going to genuinely care for her safety and her mental health, like in the industry, because this industry and any entertainment industry, whether it's music, movies, TV, whatever, it's fucking brutal. Like, like children should not be subjected to anything like this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, because growing up, my mom forced me into acting. Like, well, not even forced me, but like she heavily pushed on me, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And she was like, if you just get one commercial, you get one thing, you're set for life. You get you get just one thing. And I never wanted to push myself. I never wanted to put myself in anything, because, I mean, for one, I hated memorizing, and I hated that space. I remember there were a couple other friends that I had that were in that space, and their parents were the parents are the worst. The parents are the worst. Mine are great. I mean, let me set that aside. My mom and my dad, absolutely fantastic. And once I was like, I really don't want to do this, they left it, and they're like, you know what, it's fine, it's cool. Yeah. So, and I love them for that, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be back wanting to do it. It was them easing up that allowed me to want to do it again. And now I see parents that hound their kids to do all this stuff because they want to be successful. The parents want to be successful based on their kids. They want those bragging rights. They want it's a lot of it is bragging rights, to brag to their friends. Yeah, my daughter's in this hit movie. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like, it's stuff like that. But it's also they push their kids too hard. They push their kids way too hard when they should be busy being kids. They should not be focused on like making money at such a young age, because look at Michael Jackson. I mean, he never had that kid life and stuff like that. And it's insane, the kind of people that wind up in the industry and taking advantage of kids, taking advantage of like whether that's taking advantage of them financially or sexually or anything like that. The industry for kids. I don't think the industry should be meant for kids.
No, I really don't either. I mean, I know when you're talking about like acting and stuff like that, like, there are, I mean, movies and TV would be a lot different if, only people that were 18 or older could be in them. You've got to have, kids in scenes and stuff like that. But it's like, seriously, like, look at, I mean, legendary child actor for my generation, it's Macaulay Culkin. It's like,
exactly,
dude, look at him now. It's like they never let him be a kid. They were forcing him into all these movies and stuff, and now it's like, and as sometimes I wonder about these people in the music industry too. It's like, it's not so much part of the scenes I've been in, but I hear these stories about these like K-pop artists that, I mean, I've heard
industry's awful.
I've heard it's absolutely awful, that like the drug abuse and just abuse in general from the people that are like running the careers of these bands. It's like, it's crazy to hear about that stuff, man. And I'm just like, at what point there's a South Park episode from way back in the day where they kind of touch on this, where the whole episode is like paparazzi and people not leaving Britney Spears alone. And by the end of it, like she's reached the end of her rope. And the whole point was like, their point of their joke in the show is like, this is what we do. We put people on a super famous pedestal and we push them to the mental brink of no return. And that's what we do. and like nobody looks at it like it's weird. Like it's just
absolutely.
people feed off that. People like I hate that as a society we look at like we go on Instagram and we're waiting for the next like crazy story of somebody that like famous person that lost their mind or they lost everything or something like that. It's like people genuinely love to see people that have been put on a pedestal just torn down.
I completely
crazy.
Yeah, I agree. People are always looking for that. They're looking for the next thing to hate on. And the streaming industry, like I'm not in the streaming community as like I'm not a big streamer to be in the streaming community like that, to know other streamers. But I was talking to one of the producers at React the other day because I wanted to pitch an episode about streaming. And like do people know? Can you guess the streamer? Can you guess this? Can streamers guess the streamer? I had that pitch, and then I was going to producers being like, hey, which producer knows about the streaming space? And one of them was like, yeah, I worked for 100 Thieves, and they are children. They like they got to where they were based on immaturity, but also they are so afraid of what they say because their whole industry is based on what people think about them.
Yeah.
So they have to be so careful, and they have to like no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's sad to think about, but it's also like everyone is worried about being canceled. Everyone is worried about like that one thing that they say that may not be okay, you know?
Yeah.
And the people that are the most successful are the people that don't care.
Yeah, there is a certain sense though in streaming as opposed to doing content like on YouTube and stuff. Like people are more careful about what they say because like you said, everybody's getting canceled. Like on streams, you don't get edits and redos. You say you say one wrong thing on stream, your entire content career could be done in a second.
Exactly.
So I somewhat get that people are trying to be careful. I mean, I've gotten, my YouTube and my content, I'm not worried about stepping on a lot of toes or anything. Like I have had artists and labels and management from the music industry reach out to me and tell me I can't be talking about the things I'm talking about because the general public shouldn't know how music business works and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I've had more bands tell me that they think it's cool because it gives a behind the scenes look at how stuff works and stuff like that. But I'm not worried about stepping on a lot of toes, but I have still had people actually give me a hard time for not going further than I do. Like there are certain times where I don't want to drop names because it's, tour stories or something like that. And I don't want to drop names. And so it's like, it's kind of like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Cause if it's like, if I tell a story and drop a name, maybe those people involved with that story are not going to be happy with me. But then if I tell the story and don't drop the name, there's going to be a handful of people that watch that content. They're like, oh, he's not telling us who actually did it. And like, so it's...
Yeah, I feel like it's better to be safe than sorry in that sense. Yeah, because, I mean, it's those handful of people are parasocial. Very parasocial, where they want to know every little detail about everybody. Mm-hmm. And the parasocial aspect of the internet world is the biggest problem right now. Is the biggest problem. They want to be friends with everybody on the internet so bad. They want to find out every little detail. They want to find out everything about the person that they like so much. And I've struggled with that with the people on my live streams in my space, and it is awful. Like I remember there was this guy in my Instagram DMs, and he DM'd me being like, hey, I love your stuff, all this kind of stuff. I don't respond to any Instagram DMs. Yeah. That is to be safe about anything, because the moment you accept it, the more they continue to try to talk to you. Yeah. So I got a DM, hey, I love your stuff. Obviously, I didn't respond. He took it personally that I didn't respond to him. And this is funny, he's like, if you don't respond, I'm sending you pictures of my shit.
Okay.
And obviously I didn't respond.
Did he?
He sent 3 separate pictures of his shit on 3 different... No, actually, the funniest part about that was he sent a single picture of his shit. Absolute log that thing was, Absolute, he was a skinny guy. I'm surprised, But God. I blocked him.
Yeah.
He created a new account, followed the same amount of people, and posted the same pictures, maybe like one less or one more. And I only knew it was a new account because the bio was slightly different each time.
Yeah.
So he went through the effort of doing all that every time just to send me a new shit pic.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
it
I've never gotten anything like that yet, to be honest.
You know what? You're missing out. You're missing out, man.
I mean,
These people, they are some entertainment in and of itself, man. They are
dude, I know what you mean though. There is a sense I've been very protective with my content of everybody in my family that's not me for the most part, because I'm the one that's on screen. I don't mind putting my stuff out there. It's like my name isn't a secret. People know I live in Nashville, stuff like that. But people know my wife's name and stuff, but she's been on camera maybe twice in 3 years. And it's always been live streams. It's not like permanent content. We've never posted our child on social media. That's something I'm not judging anybody that does, but for us, it's like, I'm not putting my kid on social media. One, because there's a lot of weirdos out there and she's super young. And two, she can't even consent to it. She's 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I completely agree. Yeah. I feel like, Casey Neistat does the same thing where he blurs his daughter's face out.
Yeah. That's what, in the rare occasion we actually have a pic. Like we went and saw Bluey live recently, which was fantastic.
There's a live show for Bluey?
Dude, it's so good. It's so good. We posted a picture of me, my wife, and our daughter outside the show, and we like put something over her face and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a fantastic show. But it was the first time we took her to anything like that, like out in public in a big atmosphere, and she actually did really good, and it was an absolute blast. And I will say there was a few moments where I got kind of like teary-eyed because like watching my daughter interact and enjoy something that much, it was just sitting there with a smile on her face, like it's like the coolest thing ever. But I do keep a lot of stuff close to my chest because, like you said, people, they see you on the internet and they feel like they're entitled to like
everything about you.
Exactly. And it's like I've seen the same thing happen to artists that I work for in the music industry. People feel like just because they buy a ticket to the show, they're entitled to all the attention from that artist and whatever. And, I've made it very clear to a lot of people in my content, like, I don't owe any of you anything. And I know they all understand, or my regular viewers do, because we've talked about this, but it's like, I appreciate every single one of you watching my content. I appreciate the people that are signed up on Patreon and that sub on Twitch. But at the end of the day, I and other content creators don't owe you guys anything.
No, like, not at all.
And that really is what it is. And people would make the argument like, well, you wouldn't be anything if people didn't sub and watch your channel. I'm like, you're right. That is true. But just because I'm on the internet and you watch my channel doesn't mean that you deserve my 100% undivided attention at all times, because people look at the screen and they don't think about what's going on other places. I know people that like watch my videos and like, casually, they may not know that I have a wife and a 2-year-old and dogs and a house, and I do other stuff when I'm home. And it's like, they just
have a life outside of what they see.
Exactly. And it's, it's the same with a lot of content creators. They don't see past the person that's on the camera and think of them as a real human being. People on the internet have been dehumanized, is what it is. Like, they're just objects for attention at this point. And this may sound like I'm complaining. I'm really not, because if it was that big of a deal to me, I just wouldn't be doing content. It would be that easy. But yeah, there's just that problem with the dehumanization of people that are doing content creation and stuff like that. And I also think that dehumanization also crosses over to some content creators. I think there are people that don't value themselves as much as they should as people because of the way that other people are constantly treating them.
Oh, I completely agree. Like, there are a lot of content creators have this, it's this complex. What's the word for it? It's, shoot, I completely forgot, where they consistently feel like they are not worthy of being in the position that they're in.
I mean, it'd be like an inferiority complex, kind of.
Yeah,
but the other way around. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Imposter syndrome. That's what it is. Where they,
Okay.
where they feel like they got where they are. They're great people, but they feel like it was given to the wrong person, and they try their best to still make the content that they make, but they feel like they should not be where they are. Like there's this YouTuber Jaden Animations, and she felt that for a while. There was at the time there's a YouTuber, Call Me Carson, where he had a big that inferiority complex, and so many other creators have felt that way. And to an extent, I kind of felt that way too, where it's like, oh, I don't feel like a celebrity. I don't feel like this person. Like, it's so mind-boggling to, like, being put out there for an audience that you feel like you don't have, and you feel like you don't, like, that you haven't earned, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of fucks with your mind a little bit.
I had to work through that too, if I'm being honest. I still feel like, me sitting here, like, I still, I say this to, like, because I've made a lot of friends doing content, both that are also content creators and people that I just got to know from doing my channel. And I've had this talk with people where I'm like, you know, I just still feel like normal ass regular dude. That's nothing special, that, like, I do content, but I had to work through a lot of that because I felt that too. I was like, you know, I guess at a certain point you do, when you're doing content, have to just accept the fact that, you know, there are people that are placing you bigger than you think you actually are. And I've had a few incidents happen recently where I've been in public and someone has recognized me, and I still find that so mind blowing that, like, I was like, I don't know, like, my wife and I, about 6 months ago, we moved to the suburbs right outside of Nashville. And the first time we moved, I went to a grocery store, and we're in this area that's like a big military town area. And there's this dude walking down I'm in the cereal aisle, just in like a hoodie and a pair of gym shorts and sandals, like, whatever.
Not thinking about it.
No, not at all. And some huge buff military guy walks by me, and he's like, "Hey, are you Tank?" And I'm like,
that's got to be the best feeling ever, though. Like the first time is always the most, like,
well, I dude, at first I thought I did something wrong, and he was like, could like beat my ass or something. And he goes, I was just like, yeah. And he goes, dude, I love your channel. And I was like, what? Like, really? And the crazy thing is, when I go to concerts now, especially if it's a band that I've covered on my channel, it is just an inevitable thing now that I'm going to have a couple dozen people coming up throughout the night, like taking pictures, talking. And it's like, I don't want anybody hearing this to think I'm like bragging or sounding arrogant. It's still a little odd to me. It's still like,
no, I completely agree with you.
I just feel like that regular ass normal dude. And it's just kind of interesting. Like, even my last tour that I went on, dude, it was bonkers. Like,
who are you touring with?
So earlier this year, I did a tour with Powerwolf, this German power metal band.
Okay.
And they came over to the States for the very first time, and they wanted an American on the crew, so I guitar teched. And like, during changeovers, going into their set, like, tons of people in the front row of the crowd would be like yelling at me because they're like, "Oh, fuck, it's Tank, like, from YouTube," and blah blah blah. And I'm like, wow. And the same thing, I'm going to be tour managing Electric Callboy this summer, and I've already had people hitting me up being like, "Hey, when they do their VIP meet and greets, are you going to be doing it with them?" And I'm like, no.
That's awesome.
Like, it is, but it's like, it's wild. And I've got to put my foot down and separate that. Like, you know, there's a difference between the dude that you see on YouTube and the guy that's getting hired to go work for bands. Like, even these 2 jobs that I've taken recently, I've told their managers, I'm like, listen, I just want you to know that I take my job seriously, and you're going to be getting the work version of me, and you don't need to worry about, like, the YouTube version of me being out there. Like, I'm not going to have my camera out, you know. And I could tell, even on that first tour this year, it was my first tour back since the pandemic, because pandemic happened. We couldn't tour. I had a kid. I wanted to stay home. I could tell on that first tour, there was a moment, like not really a standoffish moment, but a moment where this band's crew was feeling me out on the first day. Like, it was like, all right, is this guy just good at talking big on YouTube, or does he actually know what he's doing? And after that first show and everything went well, they're like, okay, like this is legit. We don't have to worry about, because there are a lot of content creators that 100% are full shit. There's been YouTube musicians that have gotten hired for gigs, and the second they get out to do a gig, people realize like, oh, they've basically been editing very well and faking everything they've been doing on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly where you're coming from. Like, what's it called? Going into what you were saying about like people recognizing you, like I don't get recognized often. Like I'll have that like once every couple months, like someone coming up to me and recognizing me. And sometimes I'll be with my friends, and then my friends make fun of me for it, blah blah blah. But then I think the time that I got recognized the most for it was in school. And that was the worst. That was the worst because kids are fucking brutal.
Yeah, like, dude.
And the fact that I was in school with them, they went out of their way to make me feel like shit. And it was always the same 3 questions. How'd you get on? Do you make money? How much money do you make? Can you get me on?
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, it was like clockwork. Every single person. And the fact that I was in school with them made it so that it's not like they were coming up to me as a fan. They were coming up to me with the intention of either clout chasing or just trying to make fun of me. And it was, again, like clockwork. Every single person that would say, like, Teens React Kid, Teens React, like all that. I was bullied for it in middle school. High school, it was a little better, but I still got it every so often. And sometimes people would come up to me for that, like, they were cool with me. They're like, they respected me for it. They loved that. But then other times they would be like, kids react to as I was walking by, and it would just, I hated being a part of the channel.
There's 3 things to that though. And one, like you said, teenagers are fucking brutal. Yeah. Teenagers are the worst people on the planet, hands down.
Yeah, like, completely.
Now the internet has made a lot of adults horrible too, but like, being a teen, I look back to my high school days now, and like they were not great at times too. Like teenagers are brutal, and also because they're still kids, they don't know how to act in society, Yeah. But another part of that is, like we talked about, people love to just break down people that they see on a pedestal higher than them. The other thing could legitimately be envy or jealousy.
Yeah.
Those kids probably wanted to be on there and they weren't, so they wanted to make you feel about like shit about it.
Yeah. And there were people that I noticed that were like that. And there were other times when it wasn't necessarily jealousy, but they wanted that self-gratification of that one internet kid being always hating on that one internet kid, It was brutal. It 7th grade was the worst year for me. Like I'm talking like middle school I feel like is the worst because it's when kids realize they can say no. They realize when they can actually sort of be their own person, And 7th grade I got bullied like crazy. What's it called? I was actually contemplating suicide back in like 7th grade because I was just so heavily bullied by everyone around me, and my grades were shit. I never wanted to go out and do anything. I was for the best way I could put it, I was in a happy depression where I never felt like I was depressed, but everything that came along with it, like that's what I felt. And it was a combination of getting bullied from Teens Reacting, or actually at the time it was Kids React, being bullied for Kids React, and just being bullied from middle schoolers in general. And for the longest time, I just did not want to be on the show. I hate it. Like someone who's an extrovert and loved attention, it was the first time where I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't want people looking at me like that. I don't want people, I don't want that sort of attention anymore. And I just kind of stuck with it. My mom was like, look, I understand if you want to not be on it, but just like it's your decision. And at the time it was I got into there was like this one big fight with this guy. His name was Jordan, and he was that major like middle school bully that you would think of, and I got into like a fist fight with him, and it was at the time where everyone knew who I was but didn't want to be my friend, and that's why I say seventh grade was like the worst, was because everyone thought I was that one annoying internet kid.
Yeah,
everybody. There was only like a handful of people. I would go into one of the rooms at lunch and play blackjack with one of the teachers because I didn't have any friends.
I can relate to that. Seventh grade for me, I spent my lunch hour in my science teacher's room playing computer games because I didn't want to go to recess.
Yeah, exactly. So. It was like after that, eighth grade was better for me, and then all throughout high school, that outgoing, extroverted personality won everybody over, and I loved that. I had the best time throughout high school because I was I became friends with everybody. I was friends. I had my own group of friends. They became the stoner kids, and then I became friends with the football kids. I became friends with the ROTC kids. I became friends with just like every clique that you can think of. I would bounce around from group to group because I hated staying in one spot. And it was the best time for me. And I was just enjoying every moment of it. And that was the time when being made fun of for Kids and Teens React didn't really bother me as much because I had learned to navigate it, learned to kind of go around it. And high school was the best time for me. I had a really, really good time. And it was such a stark difference because people were maturing. And so people knew how to act at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And it became such a great time for me until I got kicked out of high school. So
you got kicked out of high school?
Yeah, I got kicked out of high school.
What?
Yeah.
What did you do?
Graduated in 2021. I'm 19.
Oh my God. I graduated in 2005.
2005. Can I make you feel old? I was born in 2003.
Yes. I was a junior, junior in high school in 2003. No, wow. Sophomore.
I like making fun of my friends because I have a lot of older friends that are like mid-20s or early 30s sort of people, and I love making fun of them. Just be like, yeah, I can drink and not get hungover.
Yeah. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Nope. I don't even drink anymore.
Yeah, like... I mean, what's it called? The first time I drank was on a trip to France when I was 18. So, and I don't really drink. So, yeah, but okay, I love making fun of them for it. So,
So how'd you get kicked out of high school? Let's hear it.
So, 2021, I was supposed to graduate, and pandemic hit when I was second semester junior.
Oh, wow! I didn't even think about that when you said that. So you had to deal with school during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And with that, I had, I just kind of went through it. The second semester, everyone was kind of figuring stuff out. Just be like, look, finals, we'll go easy on them. We don't care. Let's just because everyone can cheat. Who cares? We'll figure stuff out for senior year. And senior year, I had the bright idea to live stream during class. And I had a plan for it. So I had told my friend, hey, what do you think of me live streaming during class? And he starts laughing. And I didn't realize till the day after that he was laughing at how stupid it was and not laughing at how funny it was.
Yeah.
So my plan was I was going to live stream during class, and it was only going to be my face. And since it was through Microsoft Teams, where with our school laptops, and what I had done was I had hooked up OBS to be my camera for class, and you only had to turn on your camera for like a presentation. And luckily, I was presenting the next day, so I had everything planned. And
so wait, really quick, just to clarify, when you say you were live streaming in class, you're talking about live streaming like the Teams online classroom, not actually being physically in your school, right?
No, not being in school.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't following that. I get what you're saying now.
Yeah. So, it was just my face, And it wasn't going to be anyone else's faces. It wasn't going to be anyone else's names. It wasn't going to be anything else. So, and I thought that was going to be fine. Because, I mean, legality-wise, I thought if you didn't show people's faces, you know, it was fine. So, when it was my time to present, I turned on my camera, and they saw chat. They saw my alerts and everything. I had about 150 people in my live stream. And I told them to spam. I told them to spam like anything because I just wanted visually to make it look like, oh, he's live streaming.
Yeah.
And that day I made more than the teacher. In donations wise, and it was hilarious. I was just presenting, and then the teacher was like, "That's it was great, you know, whatever. What's all that stuff on your screen?" And I'm like, "Pardon? What are you talking about? Is everything okay?" And she's like, "All that stuff," and I'm like, I'm not sure. I mean, I can turn it off if you want." And she's like, "Yeah, just like turn off your camera." I'm like, "Okay." And then I do that and I go on mute and I go berserk because it was successful. Exactly what I wanted. It was successful. They saw that I was in class. They heard everybody, but it was none of the problems with recording people's faces, recording like all that kind of stuff. So I was ecstatic and I'm like, "You guys did amazing. You did it perfectly. You guys did it absolutely perfectly. I could not ask for a better time. Thank you guys." But I was like hysterical. I was having a great time. Yeah. And then one of the people in my class was like, "Hey, what's up, Twitch? Yeah." Like everyone was like having a good time. And then after that, I had to, funnily enough, go to React that day. So I had to leave class early and go film with them. And that they didn't like that either. They didn't like that I left school without telling ahead of time or something like that. I forget. The next day, my dad gets a call, and he's like, from the school, be like, "We're going to need you and your son to come in." And he's like, "What's this about?" And they were being assholes about it. They're like, "Oh, you know why." Like being fucking coy. And my dad's like, "No, I don't understand what you're talking about." And he's like, "Your son live streamed during class. We're going to need to talk to you and your son about it." And he's like, "Okay." My dad doesn't think much of it. Who cares, you know?
Yeah.
And because my dad, on the live stream, I'd called my dad being like, "It was a really funny live stream." He's like, "That's great, buddy, blah, blah, blah." And so he knew about it. We go in. It's 4 people. There was the 2 deans, the head of security, and the assistant principal.
Head of security?
Yeah, or like something like that.
Security for a school?
I forget. It was like assistant principal, vice principal. There's 4 people. There's a point.
Yeah.
And because it was still the pandemic, it was, you know, the table was set up long ways. So
everybody spaced out.
Yes. Yeah. It was the table was set up long ways. So the 4 people on one end and my dad on the other. It felt like something out of like Inglourious Bastards or something. Like something super funny like that. And so we're like, "Okay, let's discuss this. Probably gonna get in trouble. Who cares?" It was like my senior prank, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, "You had malicious intent to try to take down this teacher, this and that." I'm like, hold up. Relax. What the fuck are you talking about?
So, to jump in really quick, interject in the middle of this podcast. No, this is not an ad. Normally, I don't edit these podcasts. We like to just let them go. But at this specific point, the internet in Jackson's neighborhood actually went out. And I sat on this Zoom call for maybe 20 minutes waiting for him to come back. And he actually didn't get his internet back. He had to use his hotspot on his phone to get back on. So just know that there was a weird break here, and that's why it's going to sound weird how he starts retelling the story, but it worked out. So with all that out of the way, let's jump right back into this one. So continue us from, getting there and being at the table and all that stuff with everybody.
Yeah. So, I think where I left off, they were saying, "Yeah, you have malicious intent to try to take down this teacher." And my dad and I are like, "What the fuck are you talking about? This is no, that's not what's happening." And I did it because I thought it was funny. When am I gonna say that I was in like the pandemic being able, I streamed during my class, like, and I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think it was the end of the world. And the teacher, I'm pretty sure, she had recorded my VOD on her phone, like of her laptop, being like, It's like it was funny just seeing them pull that up as evidence
Yeah.
being like, you try to take down this teacher. I didn't think much of it. And the reason why they had it as such a problem was because I had been like thanking everyone after, being like, oh my God, you guys did great. Like, and because I was freaking out and I was having a
Yeah.
blast afterward. That's what got me. And my dad was like, he's never been to the principal's office and you're making a big deal about this. You're wanting to punish him for something that was maybe even a slap on the wrist. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah. Have you done this before? Do you make money off of this stuff? Are you they at like interrogating me?
Yeah.
And we're just like, what the fuck is going on right now? And what I had failed to realize is that a couple weeks prior, there was this teacher that had worn a Black Lives Matter shirt, and a parent had taken a picture of that and put it on Facebook, being like, this is disgusting. And they had gotten a bunch of Facebook people to harass that teacher.
Okay.
And
so that was going to be where I was going to kind of come from with this. I was going to say, I get where you're coming from, and it seems a little overblown, but I have seen cases online of kids that have like live streamed or, done stuff like that where it's led to a lot of backlash for other people. So I wonder if that's why they were freaking out about it. Like,
yeah,
like I'm not like, seriously, as you told the story, like even in my mind, I was like, it's innocent, it's goofy, whatever. Like, if you clearly didn't have intent to do anything towards the teacher or any of the other students, like, no big deal. But I kind of get that side of that argument where they were, bringing up those other things. Is it worthy of an expulsion? I don't know. So like round us up, take us home there. What happened there?
yeah. So they were saying, yeah, he's gonna get suspended, and we're like, okay. My dad was still freaking out about that because they were just because again, I've never been to the principal's office.
Hold on. How are they going to suspend you from online classes? Just not let you go to the online class?
Fuck if I know, bro. I have absolutely no clue. And my dad was still freaking out. Like, why is this a suspension thing?
Yeah.
Why is this even on the table for clean record? My dad was defending me so well in this because there was a point where they just stopped listening to me and was talking to my dad, being like, you're a bad parent. Why would you let him do this? Like stuff like that. And I can understand the wanting to kind of like discipline me after the whole teacher thing that had happened a couple weeks prior. What I also didn't realize is that they had put out an email being like, no one is allowed to record, no one's allowed to do anything, literally that morning, which I had not seen. So they were trying to make an example out of me and trying to go above and beyond. And so they're like, okay, we're going to discuss this. The four people leave the room, and my dad and I are just like, what the hell's going on? What is this? And they come back in the room about like 5 minutes later, and they're like, all right, so you have two options. One, you voluntarily leave to go to a different school for the semester. And next semester, if you're quote unquote good enough, we'll let you come back. The other option is you can go in front of the administration board and state your case. They like you, you stay. If you don't, you get expelled. And those were the two options at the table, and I was in shock. Yeah. I was completely just, I was blank face staring like at the table, just like, what the fuck is happening? My dad is now like furious at them, being like, are you kidding me? For any of the stuff that's happening. And they're like, yep, those are your two options. And I then start breaking out crying because I'm like, this is my senior year of high school, and you kidding me for something that was maybe even a slap on the wrist? And they're like, yeah, this is how it's gonna go. And so I'm like, I want to get, I at least want a guaranteed in back into school. I mean, what? And the assistant principal is like, yeah, I would, if he was a kid in my class, I wouldn't want him either. Yeah, I wouldn't. Like they were saying that to my face. Yeah. All this stuff. My dad's like, you wouldn't want a straight A student. You wouldn't want someone that has never gotten in trouble, any of this stuff in your classroom. And he was defending, being like, yeah, I wouldn't. Trying to antagonize my dad. And we had gone with the option to go to a different school for the semester. And one of the deans was actually like helping us through it, being like, look, this is kind of stupid. The other people are going above and beyond. And we're like, okay. and I'd gone to it was basically like a summer school for the semester where you'd go in 1 week, they give you work, and you've turned it in by the end of the week, that sort of thing. And I had finished it in like November before school had even ended. I'm like, okay. And that school was like, we kind of need students. I mean, you get to finish class early, you get to do all this stuff, and I'm like, I'm considering it. And then I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just stay for the semester? Why don't I stay for the next semester? And so I had asked the dean, being like, hey, would it be cool if I had stayed here for the second semester? You guys don't have to worry about me. I'm not gonna stream during class.
Yeah.
And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, as long as I come back for like graduation and prom and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, yeah, sure, I guess, cool. So I had ended up finishing in February for like all of my classes, and I would be ready to graduate by February. And so I'd emailed the dean back. Dean's like, I was like, yeah, I'd finished all my classes. Can I get all the information for prom and graduation? Like, yeah, absolutely. Just email this head of security guy, and we'll get you started. So email him, and the guy was like, yeah, you didn't opt to come back, so you don't get to graduate with us. You don't get to do anything with us. Sorry. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? You're serious about this? That I had done you guys a favor. You guys were so afraid of me coming back that I stayed for the second semester, and it was a deal that I would be able to graduate with everybody.
Yeah.
And you're not giving me that deal. And he's like, yeah, sorry. Good luck on your future endeavors. Like, you.
So what did they do? Just send you a graduation diploma, and you didn't get to participate in anything else?
That's the thing. I have an Italian mom. Yeah. So
say no more, dude.
So my mom was furious. Went past that head of security, went straight to the principal. Was like, you promised him a deal. This is how it's going to go. You're going to let him go to prom. You're going to let him go to graduation. You're going to let him have grad night. And I'm not taking no for an answer. And the principal's like, okay. Yeah. And what had happened was, when graduation came around, they had given me my cap and gown, and they had given me everything. But for the diploma, they had given me a blank thing so that because I would be getting the diploma from the other school. So they had let me walk with everyone. They let me go to prom. They let me do again, reluctantly. For graduation, I had to talk to the head of security, and he was still an asshole about it, being like, are you supposed to be here? Are you like still giving me a hard time? And I'm like, yeah, dipshit. Yeah, I'm supposed to fucking be here. Yeah. You're lucky I don't get my Italian mom to come up to you. Like, it was the worst. But just the best part about it was that I got to graduate early. I got to, again, I finished in February, so I had about like 4 months to do whatever the hell I wanted. Just like stream, just kind of get everything done. But it was still stressful on me because they had put so much pressure on me to be this perfect person. They weren't taking no for an answer at all. They were, no matter what. And if my mom hadn't gone to the principal, I would not have gone to my graduation and graduated with my friends. So
that's crazy. I mean, that whole story makes me realize like how different times are too. It's like, one, I never had to navigate that whole, something like COVID during school. Like, that just wasn't a thing. But like, dude, when I was a senior in high school, we get suspended just for having a cell phone on us in class.
Yeah.
But this was 2004, and everybody's top of the line cell phones at the time were like big brick Nokia phones that only texted and had Snake on it.
Did you have a BlackBerry?
What?
Did you have a BlackBerry?
I never had a BlackBerry. No, I always kept it simple with my phones. Nextel. I don't know if you know what Nextel is.
Nextel. I don't.
This is great.
Usually I know stuff.
No,
I do not know Nextel.
Dude, that'd be a good React thing, because this would blow your guys' minds. Nextel this is around 2004, 2005. It was a cell phone brand, but it was also a fucking walkie-talkie. So instead of texting friends and shit, you could pull them up on your phone and hold the button on the side of the phone, and it would beep their phone, and you just talk into it, and wherever it is, it just plays like a walkie-talkie. Dude, that was a nightmare for years, because you'd be like hanging out at a party or hanging out with friends, and everybody's like, you just hear the beep, and then somebody's voice coming up, and like nobody would call each other. They'd just be like, oh yeah, let me Nextel them, and you just beep beep, and then be like, yo, where you at?
That is hilarious. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
my sister's in her 30s. She had it was one of those sliding phones where
yeah,
screen, slide it, that sort of thing,
yeah,
the standard sort of thing. And I think first time I got a phone, I was in 6th grade because I had to my parents wanted me to call them for them to pick me up to know where I was going, all that kind of stuff. So that they were like, "Oh, this is about time." So got like a Samsung uh Galaxy S5. It was like, yeah.
dude, I got my first iPhone in like 2011.
Oh, how old are you then? No,
Uh,
so this is past high school.
oh yeah, so in 2011 I was like 24.
Oh wow.
So yeah, like
Yeah,
iPhones weren't really a good thing until about 2010ish.
like
Like,
to like the iPhone 4 came out, like that sort of thing.
yeah, I mean, I think my first one was a 4. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
My dad had the 4, and I remember he gave me his iPhone 1. It didn't have any calling thing, so I can only use it at home
yeah.
because
So
I
it's
mean
basically a glorified like iPod
iPod
Touch
Touch.
or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was basically an iPod Touch, and I remember dropping to the toilet and it's done. So
Yeah, dude. It's so crazy how much technology has changed, dude, even from the time I went to high school until now. I mean, I know you're young, so you don't remember a lot of that stuff, but dude, technology has progressed so much, even in just the last like 10 years, to the point where it's like, it's mind blowing. Dude, when I went to college was the first time I ever saw high speed internet. Like growing up, it was modem, it was phone
dial
line,
up, yeah.
AOL, dude. Like, and now it's like, we look back on those things where it's like, if I was downloading songs from like LimeWire or Napster or something to make a CD, it would take 4 hours to download one song. And
Damn.
now it's like the click of a button, it's like done. If I were to download a song now, it'd be like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like, it's
And
insane.
I'm in that middle generation where I didn't grow up with a phone. I grew up with the phone, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I still had a VCR. I still had CDs and cassettes and all that kind of stuff growing up. And um but also I grew up when when iPhones were just coming out and all that kind of stuff, when the internet was finally getting its footing. And uh that's I think that's partially why I know so much, is
Yeah.
that I've grown up with I think like 2 years later I would have been the same as Lucas. I'm telling you. I am
Yeah,
like,
and you said your older sister's in her 30s. That's the last generation. Like, my generation is the last one that's on that cuff of like, we're gonna remember all that old shit because
yeah.
like, we saw the change of everything. I still remember like when I was a kid, dude. To this day, right now, I could rattle you off 10 different people's home phone numbers because when we went out as kids and we'd be at a friend's house, we literally just memorized our friends and our home phone numbers to call everybody because like nobody had cell phones or anything. Like, the only reason my parents wanted me to get a cell phone was when I got my driver's license. That was
Mm.
that was it. And again, it was like that Nokia where, dude, back then you didn't have unlimited minute plans and stuff like that. It was,
Minute by minute.
yeah,
You
you
paid
got
for it.
like you could get plans with like 100 minutes a month. I had my first cell phone was Track Phone, which was a phone that you could get at Walmart, and you bought prepaid minute cards at Walmart for like $20 and loaded them onto the phone.
So like a
So,
burner phone, sort of.
pretty much what a burner phone would be now. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
This was a huge thing because it was fairly cheap. So, it was like I would get like 50 minutes a month, and then it had rollover. So like, if you used 40 minutes, it would add your 10 you didn't use into the next month. That was a huge thing back in the day, rollover minutes.
Mm.
Text messaging was 20 cents per sent or received text message. And now it's, unlimited, no problem, because everybody texts now.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to look back and see how that stuff used to be. And now it's like unlimited data, unlimited calling, unlimited texting, where back when I first got my cell phone, it's like, we made our phone calls fast when we needed to make them because we didn't know what kind of, it was still like you only used your cell phone when you were outside of your house. When you were in your house, you would still use the home phone for everything.
See,
Because
I would call my friend Otto. I was known this guy since I was in preschool. Like in middle school, I used the landline to call him to play Minecraft, and I would just have it on
yes.
speaker, and my parents couldn't use the phone because the moment they picked up the phone, they would just hear his voice.
Yeah.
And it was the funniest time because I would always, and that was, I think his was the only number I remembered because I mean, kind of had to call him, to call his home phone, and it was the best. Those were the golden times. Those were for me. That was,
dude.
oh
You
my
will
God.
never know. I don't think you'll ever know. Maybe you do. I don't know. But as a middle schooler or like a early high schooler before I had a cell phone, the fear of getting somebody's phone number that you liked and calling their house and having one of their parents answer and have to be like, hi, is Jessica there? And they'd be like, who is this? Dude.
See, I had that, but I never had a crush on anyone in middle school. So it was always Otto's parents and be like, hand the phone to Otto. Just like, do that. And they're just like, and they just give it over.
Dude, it's that'll put some fear in you as a young one, dude. Like, calling somebody's house for the first time and getting their parents instead of them and having to ask for them and stuff. Oh, this is funny. I feel like we could do like a whole talk on just
old internet stuff. Not old internet stuff, old technology.
Dude, and that's what I find, again, going back to the beginning of this podcast, what I find interesting about you guys discovering music is like, again, the frame of reference, because I know people like to give you hard times for not knowing a lot of stuff that you guys have checked out on React. But the reality is there's a lot of stuff that people my age wouldn't know because it's the same thing. Their parents listened to it or something. Like I can't remember his name, but on the most recent hip hop video, there was a kid that brought up a really good, he said multiple times, I think it was during California Love. He was like, I know the song, but I don't know the artist. And I sat there and I talked to the chat about it. I was like, it's actually a really good point. Like these kids do that a lot where they know the song and they don't know the artist. There are people my age that are like that with a lot of songs. Me growing up listening to a lot of my dad's classic rock, there are so many songs that people, when they hear it come on, they know it, they know the words, they know the melodies, but they could not for the life of them tell you who the actual artist is. So
yeah,
it's interesting to have the older people watch the Gen Z React stuff and shit on you guys, but the reality is there is stuff that they wouldn't know that the older generation would shit on them for too. Like, for sure. And I kind of brought that up too. I was like, frame of reference is very interesting because, frame of reference is everything depending on how old you are. Because when they showed Ice Cube, there were a couple people that were like, oh, I recognize him.
They know him as the actor.
Yeah. Like I recognize him from movies. And I was like, I'm like, it's a good point for frame of reference though. Because, his music was huge in the early and mid 90s when I was growing up. So obviously we know him as the rapper. But if that's what you grew up seeing, like there are people that don't even know that Ice-T is a rapper. They just know him as the guy on
Rick and Morty. The reason I know so much about music is because growing up in the car with my dad, he would always play his music. He would always play his 80s new wave. He would play classic rock, all that kind of stuff. So I know all of the classics. And that's what I started off as my favorite music. His favorite were the Beatles and David Bowie. Yeah, easily. Okay. And I grew up listening to that. I know all the Beatles songs. I know just about all of David Bowie songs at this point.
Yeah.
But knowing all those classic 80s songs, that's what I only listened to in like middle school and high school. And then I started branching off into, it went from 70s and 80s to modern hip hop. It was, or not even, I think it's hip hop, like Tyler the Creator, like his sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And then from there, just that sort of morphed into just its own thing. And for a while, it was just my dad's songs and loving his songs. And now I'm finally at the point where I like my own style of music. And the style that I like now are The Strokes, Daft Punk, what else? It was Gorillaz for a while. Their new stuff sucks. I'm really not a fan of it.
Dude, this is so interesting because you're 19. Dude, this is going to change so much over the next however many years. Because I'll even tell you right now as a 35-year-old, my music tastes have changed in the last 5 years. Yeah. Like it's just going to constantly evolve and change. You're going to dive down holes where even in the world of metal, it's like if you start looking at the music markets between Europe and the US and stuff, dude, it is hard for bands outside of the US to get big here nowadays. There are bands in Europe that sell out arenas everywhere they go, and nobody knows who they are in the US. So like diving into rabbit holes with artists like that is always fun because you'll start discovering new things that you possibly thought you would never like that you really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And the only thing I really know about metal, I when I was talking about it in the Slipknot video, and obviously they cut out a lot of stuff that I talked about because in the video I was the mellow one. And I was just like, yeah, I like this. But I'm not crazy about it. I understand why people like it, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But they cut that out because it wasn't the general consensus.
Yeah.
And I was cool with that. And I knew I was going to get hate for it, but I was like, whatever. And the only metal that I really know is Metallica, really.
Okay,
and
fair.
When it comes to metal, I said at the beginning of the video, I said, I like metal. I don't like heavy metal.
I gave you a hard time for that.
Yeah. And I was like, and my point was, I like Metallica. I don't like new metal. I don't like screamo, that sort of stuff. And obviously I don't know the distinctions. And I went in, I looked up the different different genres of metal.
More so than any other genre of music. Metal has more subgenres than anything. It's ridiculous, actually. It's to a point where it's like stupid.
And I think the extent of my metal knowledge is if you can't read the name, be afraid. Yeah, where if it's a bunch of scribbles and they're from Germany, you're in for a good time.
Don't let that scare you though. There's some great bands, but again, I will say it goes back to frame of reference because for me, Slipknot is legendary because now I'll be that person to say like you said about like Gorillaz and stuff. It's like their newer stuff hasn't hit me as much as their older stuff. And they didn't really show you a lot of really old stuff. That's what actually was kind of like weird about that video. Slipknot, when they came out, was something people hadn't really heard. Now, what I mean by that is there have been heavy bands forever, but Slipknot was, dude, you wouldn't have been born when Slipknot's first 2 albums came out. That shit was so game changing. And so, like, nobody had heard metal that was that angry, that was that heavy, that was that brutal at a mainstream level. I mean, these guys were mainstream. They were on the radio. They were all over MTV, TRL, selling out arenas all over the world in, like, 2000, 2001. Like, watching the progression of Slipknot hitting the scene and seeing what they did, of course, as bands get older and they change over time, their style and a lot of things change, but Slipknot's first 2 albums from 1999 and 2001 are regarded as like massive moments for metal because of
the holy era,
how crazy it was. Like, yeah, dude. And I mean, around the same time, you had bands blowing up that you would never think about now. It's like Limp Bizkit got huge. Korn got huge. The whole new metal movement of the early 2000s was insane. So to actually be there and go through that, I think that would give you a little more perspective on like, on it changing music and stuff like that. So I totally understand the face value, the Gen Z reacts of watching some Slipknot videos and like being like, I don't get it. Like I totally understand that.
Yeah.
But as you know, like we said, you know, rage views and rage clicks are a thing and people like, and you know, that's the bummer about the internet too, is like interaction drives algorithms. So if, you know, give it to React's producers, you know, they're going to edit that in a way that's going to get people to interact with it. And they sure fucking did.
Yeah. With that video, usually they pick me for the music videos because I understand and I'm more into the music scene than a lot of other reactors. So
I can tell.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like I have a bass back there. Like and I understand where people are coming from, and I understood Slipknot. They choose me as usually the one guy that understands, and everyone else they get to just kind of talk about it. And also a lot of popular music now is not even close to what Slipknot is. And if that's what people are listening to, of course they're going to be like, what the fuck is this shit? Like they're of course they're not going to understand, and that's obviously what drives clicks. And they like
I mean, dude, there were so many comments because like by Slipknot standards now, they're not that heavy. Like compared to a lot of other bands that are big now, I mean, I could rattle you off 20 bands right now that are way heavier and more brutal than Slipknot that are still pretty big. That there were a lot of people in the comments that were like, dude, are they ever going to show these kids like Lorna Shore or Slaughter to Prevail or anything like that? Because like Slipknot's new metal is very tame compared to a lot of like deathcore and death metal bands that are out now. That would actually, I think that would make for such a funny video, but it would be very niche because I mean, deathcore is more popular than ever right now. Like it's huge. But I think it would be kind of wild for that. I mean, there are some other bands, we can talk about this off screen and I can tell you about it, but there are some other bands that I think would be great for React content as well. But I understand why they pick the bands they do because, you know, same with the 90s hip hop one. It was like, there were other artists I would have personally thrown in there, but I get why they chose what they did.
It's also, I mean, they chose the most popular ones, but they also, the reason why a lot of comments are like, why didn't they choose this? Why did they choose that? Is because of Sony. And
so that
because of demonetization.
Yeah, for sure. And I get that, like doing music reactions on my own sometimes and stuff. I totally understand how that copyright game goes and stuff. Like I get it. Like, yeah. I'm at the point on my channel where I don't care if it's a band on a label or a publisher that I know is going to give me a hard time. I'm not doing it. Like,
yeah, and you know it a lot better than the producers do. I mean, like being in the scene, knowing which artists are signed to which labels, it makes it a lot easier than having to like, okay, is this UMG? Is this fucking Sony? Like if having to figure that shit out is a pain. But and a lot of times they'll reuse certain songs that were in other videos. Yeah, like there was one about like the most popular music videos of all time. And some of those were in like the just in a different video about 80s music, stuff like that. Yeah. And yeah, they have to use what they can. And there's only so I wonder who they're gonna pick next for like music stuff, because we don't know anything ahead of time. Yeah. Well, we genuinely don't.
I was gonna say, dude, if you're tight with your producers, fucking tell them to hit me up because I have contacts at damn near every label and publisher that I could fucking get you down some good roads for some shit.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what's it called? Like, we try to get whoever we can in the studio. Like, we got one of the Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
And I got to meet him. Really nice guy. Just like I was waiting. He was talking to one of the reactors, and she was like freaking out. And I just, since I don't know the Backstreet Boys very well, and I know that obviously they're huge, I just wanted to shake his hand and be like, "Hey, you're cool. Yeah. Good job." And but they try to get whoever they can. And for one of the Weezer videos, since I fucking love Weezer. Absolutely love them.
I grew up on their old CDs.
Oh, just great stuff. And I was begging the producers to get Weezer in the studio, and they tried their best, and they couldn't. So it is what it is. But they try to get whoever they can in for React stuff, because that's huge.
Dude, I'm not talking about coming in. I'm talking. I'm talking like, hey, if you need contacts to do some more obscure music because of label and publishing issues, I'll fucking help out, because through doing this YouTube journey, I know somebody at most every label. So
that's awesome. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the big games on YouTube with React is like a lot of people that do reactions, they just react to everything because they're going for views, which if that's what you're trying to do, that's cool. But most content creators would like to monetize their content. So I got to a point where I made good relationships with all of the labels of bands that I like to check out. So if you see me do a unless it's something wild like your Metallica or like Linkin Park or something like that, I think on my channel in the last like 6 months, I've had one copyright claim, and it was like Rammstein. Wow. Like, because again, I don't do anything unless I know it's a label is going to clear it for me. Cause like, I'm not dicking around with it anymore. Like
there's no point. It's not worth the hassle.
Yeah, you know? For sure. Like the React, whoever edits the React videos, I've noticed they do a very good job at having the audio of the music there enough where you know what you guys are watching, but it's also buried enough under you guys talking and other parts and cut out and stuff to where I know they're monetizing those videos because they've edited it so well. Yeah, and that's very good.
They make sure of that shit. They make sure to completely make sure everything is okay beforehand. Try to research all the songs, what labels they're on, all that stuff. And I'm I'm just glad I'm a part of it now because it's been through React has been through so many changes. It has been like first it was the Fine Brothers while I was like when I was 11. Then they were still on the up and up. They went from one floor to two floors to the whole building to then to then going through a bunch of controversies and then the pandemic and then a bunch of everybody leaving and then them having to sell the company and then them having to go under new management, rebrand, literally I've been through all of that. And I think right now we are at such a good place on the channel to where everyone is having such a good time. We realize that views are going back up again. Everyone is like, because we have two channels. It's React and then it's People vs. Food.
Yeah.
And People vs. Food is killing. And we didn't realize that. At the time, it was just not.
I've seen a few of those, which is always fun. But like I focus on the music stuff, so I watch a lot of you guys reacting to music. But yeah, food would be a good one too. I mean, for anybody, and I obviously see the numbers there, and it's killing it. And I think one of the big things people need to differentiate too that people don't know. React is still associated with the Fine Brothers so much, and people feel a certain way about them that there are still people that shit on the React channel because they're like, oh, the Fine Brothers are full of shit. I'm like, the Fine Brothers haven't been doing this channel for a fucking while, dude.
They sold it like before the pandemic, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like, or actually, I think they sold it actually the beginning of the pandemic around that time, and they had like 3 channels. They had FBE. FBE2 and Try Not To. And Try Not To at the time was actually, it was such a good outlet because they a lot of times it's like try not to laugh, try not to do this, blah blah blah. But they edited it in such a way where it looked really professional. It looked really nice. And then the producer for that channel completely left the channel. So it was like a shell of what it was. And they sold that to a bunch of TikTokers and they ruined the channel. It completely killed the Try Not To channel. Like if you go to it now, it is just what's it called? It was just really poorly edited. Like it was like a TikTok like house doing like somewhat doing like sciencey video. It didn't make sense. And it completely killed the channel.
It still blows my mind thinking about the fact that there are content channels that are being sold. Like I couldn't imagine getting an offer to sell my channel to somebody.
I mean, at that point, after the controversy that they had before during the pandemic, they had to, there was no way they could have made money with everyone leaving and nobody wanted to be affiliated with them. Nobody wanted to be affiliated with the Fine Bros. And now they're off doing their own thing. But I will say the Fine Brothers at the before all the controversy stuff, they were nothing but the kindest people. And they made sure to treat at least the reactor side of it pretty well. For me specifically, I have no qualms against them. For behind the scenes with the editors and with with some of the producers, I can't speak for them because they had a completely different thing. I would go in there once a month. They would be there every day. So, I mean, from my end, all I could say, I have to say thank you because without them, I wouldn't be here. I would not be somewhat where I was. And it's still very interesting to think about because there have been times when I'm like live streaming and thinking if I wasn't on there, I wouldn't have this many people watching me. I wouldn't have any of this set up. I have like a $3,000 to $4,000 PC from just saving up from React and saving up from streaming to buy that. And I would not have anything if it wasn't for them. But I do think that where the React channel is now, it is in a much better place and it's so much healthier. I think it's a lot less people. It's a lot more scaled down. And it's just in general so much better. Like it is, not to diss the Fine Bros when they had it, but it feels more healthy, I guess.
Yeah. And change is a good thing sometimes,
Yeah. And I guess when they've been doing it for so long, it's only a matter of time before they had to sell it,
Yeah, for sure. Well, speaking of your streaming and all that stuff, we're gonna start wrapping up this episode of the podcast. But before we do that, Where can people find you when you're streaming or when you're doing content? Are you on Twitch? Are you uploading stuff to YouTube? Where's the best place for people to find you?
So right now, the best place for people to find me would be I'm on the three main platforms that I'm on would be YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok. Those are the three main things. I mean, Instagram, I'm the most active only because like some people use Twitter, some people use Instagram. At this point, since I have the most on there, I just kind of advertise on there. But the places where I am actually making content would be Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. Those are the three main places.
Is your handle the same on all of those?
Pretty much. It's either Jaxon HH or Jaxon Hibler.
Okay.
One of the two. I think Twitch for me is the one where I try my best on, and the one where I try to be most active on. So actually, if anything, Twitch is the best place to find me at Jaxon HH.
Okay. Cool. Well, for anybody that's watching this on YouTube, I'll have links to all of that stuff in the description. For those of you on Spotify, just write it down or remember it later or anything like that. But man, this was super fun just sitting and talking to you about just React stuff and then mental health stuff online. Like I love these conversations because this honestly just felt like just hanging out and talking to a friend rather than I didn't even think about the fact that you were 19 until, you had said it.
Yeah. I love making people feel old. I love that. That's like, oh, it gives me a rush.
Yeah. That's part of touring though, too. Like, when I tour in the music industry, all the crews are so different aged that after a certain point, you don't even think about it. So it's like, like one of my best friends that I ever made on a tour is like 70 years old. And when we worked together, like you'd never even thought about it. We just hung out and whatever. So that's what I liked about this. It's like,
yeah. And I love that. I mean, a lot of my, like I said, a lot of my friends are a lot older than me. My close group of friends are my age, but I have couple groups of friends that are just like 20s to 30s to 40s that just we chat shit. Who cares,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you very much for joining me on here, man. And stick around for a second because I want to talk to you a little more when we're done here. But yeah, for everybody listening, you can check them out normally on the React channel, and we'll have all the social media links and everything linked in the YouTube video. But Jaxon, thank you very much one more time for joining me on here, man. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I had a blast. I love talking about anything and everything. So thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Well, that's going to wrap up our conversation part of this episode. And thank you so very much to Jaxon for jumping on here and spending really a couple hours with me on this, including the time that his internet went out and stuff like that. But this was really fun, man. And I also think it was kind of interesting just because of our age difference. I mean, we almost have 20 years between us. I think it's more like 17 or something. So it's interesting to get the perspective of somebody that's much younger. And, the conversation just felt very natural, even with that age difference. And he was a really cool dude to talk to. And all of the little things about React Media and the stuff that he's gone through over the years with this stuff, it was pretty wild, man. And again, I'm so happy he was so open and honest about a lot of this stuff because there were a lot of things that came up that I just didn't expect. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed talking to him. Just as another reminder, if you want to keep up with Jaxon away from the React channel, at Jaxon HH, again, that is JAXONHH. That is his handle on just about everything on social media. Again, a YouTube channel, a Twitch channel, Instagram, TikTok, all of that stuff. But you can also catch him on the React channel on YouTube because they are cranking out videos nonstop. He is a part of a lot of them. And I really enjoy watching them too. So if you haven't seen them, go check it out. It's pretty fun. But thank you to every single person for listening once again. And as always, this is a blast. I love doing this. I will be honest, doing these podcasts sometimes is a little more intensive than normal content because after I film, I have to go through and listen to the whole thing and try and adjust audio to the best I can. So I'm not cranking these out all the time, but I'm enjoying doing it a ton. So if there's other kind of guests you want to see or anything like that, let me know, whether it's in an Instagram DM or a comment on here. Comments help because that helps with engagement. But I just want to keep bringing cool stuff to you guys. And I really appreciate you guys for listening as always and checking out the content and stuff like that. But that's going to wrap it up for me, man. Episode 27 of the Back Lounge podcast. This was an absolute blast. We may have one or two more of these before I go on tour in August. I'm not sure yet, but it might get a little slow after that. But keep on the lookout because I'll announce when new stuff's coming out. But wherever you are in the world, be safe, be kind to each other. I love you all, and I will be back very soon with another episode of the Back Lounge Podcast.